Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Schaefer. I am the Associate Director for Graduate Student Success and Professional Development with the Graduate School. Welcome to our August career story, and in this case, career stories. Just a couple of housekeeping items. This session is being recorded. We will stop the recording after the presentation or after our presenters have finished so that you can feel free to ask any questions and engage our presenters in conversation without or being able to turn on your camera without being recorded as part of the session. In addition, of course, you can, once we get to the Q&A session, you can turn on your camera, turn on your mic to do that, or you can simply put your questions into the chat. So now I am pleased to introduce our moderator for the session is Dr. Scott Shear, who will be introducing our career stories.
Hi, everybody. I'm a professor of art history at UTSA, and I'm also director of the UTSA Main Art Gallery. Welcome, everybody. We have three speakers today, and each of these wonderful women work for the public in San Antonio. They have wonderful experience in the professional careers in the arts. Which is very wonderful for all of us, and certainly gives me heart in thinking about the future of the world, that we've got art in our public sphere. There are three speakers, as I said, and I'm just going to introduce them briefly as they'll talk about their own career paths one by one. The first is Kimberly Mirelez, who finished with her degree in history from UTSA in 2011. She worked at the San Antonio Museum of Art for 7 to 8 years, and she's been with the city of San Antonio since 2018. Jordyn Patrias has a degree in art history. She has background in museum work, where she grew up in Wyoming. Her degree in art history, master's is from 2019. She started in the public art division as an intern in 2017 and has shifted into her current role. And folks who are listening, I want to just give a little shout out to the fact that working in internships is a wonderful way to progress into your career. And our third speaker today is Bianca Alvarez, who has her MA in art history as well from 2016. Bianca worked for the McNay starting out as an intern, later on in a professional staff curatorial role at oh my goodness, grant writer. There you go, that's my grant writer fingers, curatorial and grant writing work that she was working with. And now she's also been with public art since 2019. Thank you all for talking about yourselves and sharing your career journeys. Kimberly.
Thanks, Dr. Shearer. So Bianca's going to share a presentation here. So just to give you guys some background, here's our contact information. I think I can speak for all of us. If you guys have any questions, feel free to give us a call or email is probably best. And that's our contact info there. So we are all public art project managers with the city of San Antonio. And just to briefly give you an idea of what that means, what that is we basically manage public art projects. So we start with the scoping and project initiation phase, go through artist selection, community engagement, design, fabrication, and through installation, and then finally dedication. And then just a special shout out to Alyssa Franklin, who's on the call, who just joined our team last week and is also a UTSA alumni. So we're all UTSA road runners here in public art. Next slide. So what we're going to do is each talk about ourselves for a little bit, some of the projects we work on, and then we have some helpful tips for art world, since we know it's such a unique place and a little bit different than how other careers work. Okay, next slide, Bianca. So as Scott mentioned, my name is Kimberly Mirelez, and I was born and raised here in San Antonio. I attended UT Austin for my undergrad. I come from a family of Longhorns, so it was only ever going to be UT for me for my undergrad. And I started out as a government major thinking that I wanted to work behind the scenes in politics because as a family we watched The West Wing a lot. And I thought it was like that, and it's not. So I ended up being a double major in government and history, just because to me, you know, in my history classes, it was sitting there listening to stories all day. So I loved that. So while I was at UT Austin, I did internships around the city, but one of my favorite ones was at the Harry Ransom Center, which is a museum archive on campus. And it was kind of that experience that led me to know that I wanted to work in museums or public history and art. So with that knowledge, I came back to UTSA in 2009 to start my master's in history and how UTSA works. As you guys know, you can do world history or US history, and I chose world history for my concentration. So it was during my last semester at UTSA, getting my master's, that I got an internship with the San Antonio Museum of Art and in the registrar office. And at that point, I didn't know what a registrar did, but I'm an organization nerd and I love filling out forms and filing and, you know, all that silly stuff. But so I started off as an intern, and luckily for me, one of my colleagues was going on maternity leave. So I stepped up and said, do you want some contract help while this person is on maternity leave? They said yes. So I did that and was able to stay on as a part-time contractor for a year and a half until they made a position for me. So I started full-time at the museum in 2012 and was in the registrar's office in charge of rights and reproduction. So that's managing our contract photographer. We had a backlog of items that needed to be photographed, and working with our marketing team to update the website, working on copyright and making sure we're allowed to use all our great modern contemporary images for different things. And slowly after that, as I was there for a while, I also began to manage the exhibitions that we did. So, planning and organizing and making sure everything was done safely during installations and all kinds of things. So it was a great experience. I loved working at SAMA. I got to get up close and personal with the objects. You can see a photo here for a show that we did, kind of examining a piece. So I was really lucky. But it was a nonprofit. So in order to get a little better pay and better benefits, I was looking for other jobs within the arts field. And I found this job with the city of San Antonio as a management analyst. So when I first started with the city, I was in the cultural events and exhibits division, which, so in my position, I managed things like the Poet Laureate program, National Poetry Month. We did a distinction in the arts event, which was like a city kind of Kennedy Center Honors award. And then we also did things like 16 de Septiembre, and we had, the city does 2 art galleries, which they manage. So I helped with that as well. So I was in that position for about 8 months before a position with the public art team opened up. And I'm a project manager at heart. And so I saw the opportunity, applied for it, and got the position. So I've been a public art project manager since 2019 and have been able to work with all these lovely ladies and lots of different people within the city. And part of the reason I love working for the city is that there's a lot of professional development available. So last year, I did a women's leadership mentoring program that was really beneficial, and kind of you work on a project together and figure out how to be a leader, but you also get mentored by executives within the city. So it's things like that is why I love working for the city. And, in our job, we get to work on a lot of cool projects, which I'll talk about on the next slide. So since I started in 2019, I have done several projects. So the kind of biggest one for me was a project at Phil Harburger Park in the new land bridge, which opened last December. So some of y'all may have been out there and seen these wildlife viewing blinds. You can see photos of them in the bottom right-hand corner there. We worked with two artists, Kate Bradshaw and Ashley Mirelez, who designed, who worked together, but designed different wildlife viewing blinds where you can be in there, but be camouflaged for the animals around you. So you can kind of view them without disturbing them. So these are on either side of the land bridge. And you can see Ashley's design on the right-hand side is a kind of oversized floral cutout there of some native wildflowers that are found in the park. And then Kate's design on the left, or in the center at the bottom there, thanks Bianca, you can see talks about the topography of the park, but also shows some different animals that are found in the park. Another project I did that you see on the left-hand side is an installation called Bloom, and this is at the Riverwalk Public Art Garden downtown. And this work is by Leticia Huerta, who's a San Antonio artist, and I won't talk too much about that because Bianca will is kind of our Bloom leader. So this was just one aspect. We also did, starting in 2019, starting in 2019 through 2020, we did a Sebastian and San Antonio citywide exhibition. So this was an exhibition that had over 100 pieces by the artist Sebastian, who did our Torch of Friendship, and a few other new pieces that Bianca will talk about. And this was a temporary exhibition where we had pieces, over 100 pieces in all 10 council districts. So it was a large exhibition to plan. And it was great that we had it up during when COVID started to kind of have other activities for people to do. We also just recently had a kind of open house dedication for a project at City Hall. It recently was renovated after maybe 50 years of no renovations. So it's completely renovated. And during that renovation, they found on the second, third, and fourth floors, these niches that used to be way back in the day, kind of ventilation windows within the building. And the architect said this would be a great place for art. So we worked with 6 local artists, and they each had a triptych of niches. So this piece that you see on the right-hand side of the top is one of Raul Gonzalez's piece. And his particular is about the music in San Antonio. So it was a really great opportunity to work with 6 artists who did, completely different things in a building where, the city manager and the mayor and city council are, but also any kind of foreign dignitaries will come and get a flavor of San Antonio artists. So those are the completed projects. In addition, I'm working on Stargazer, which is a big sculpture at the Riverwalk Public Art Garden that we're actually installing right now by Petraeus, who's a Mexican artist, but pretty internationally known. I'm also working on a project at Sealing Channel, which is in near Woodlawn Lake. It's called Poets Point. It's a work by Kim Bishop and Luis Valderas, and 7 poets and 7 artists from District 7 doing a kind of community gathering spaces that features poetry and art kind of mixed together. I'm also doing a project at a senior center in District 9, working with an artist who's from not from San Antonio, but has been really great to work with and to make some art for this for the seniors. I also manage our World Heritage Trail and World Heritage projects. So right now we have 3 projects on the World Heritage Trail that are all in the beginning stages. So if you're interested in that, visit our website and you can start becoming a part of our community engagement. And then also, in addition to that, I am in charge of the maintenance and repairs for our lovely collection. As you can imagine, these are built, when we try to design these, they're built to last, but graffiti happens and we've seen an uptake, unfortunately, in graffiti since COVID hit. So making sure everything is cleaned and has anti-graffiti sealant applied to it, or we have to do that every so often. Any other kind of damage or repairs or just general maintenance, we have a very small budget to work with. So unfortunately, sometimes our public art projects don't look 100%, but we really try to get, a good maintenance and repair program done. So that's just a little bit about me and my journey and what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pass it on to Bianca, who's going to talk next.
Bianca, as you're getting ready, can I interject one small thing for everybody? Kimberly, thanks for your talk. But I'm sure Kimberly knows, but I wanted to point out at least 3 of the artists she talked about are UTSA grads. Leticia Huerta, Raul Gonzalez, and Kim Bishop is now finishing she's not a grad yet, but she's finishing her MFA this year. So that's some more Roadrunner power for you.
Yeah, we love working with local artists, and Jordyn will talk a little bit more about how y'all can do that too.
Thank you.
Yes, so thank you. My name is Bianca Alvarez, and I'm also born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. A little bit about my educational background here. I started going, when I entered UTSA, I was actually a bio pre-med major. And my junior year, some things happen that make you think about life or maybe see it in a different way. And I figured you only live once. And so junior year, I changed majors and decided to pursue a BFA in painting. So it was also the best decision I could have made. The last year of that program, for the BFA program, I was approached by the graduate advisor at the time, Dr. Teresa Ekman, who presented a wonderful opportunity. She asked me if I would be a reader grader for art history classes. And I was like, well, that's a little different. I considered myself to be a studio artist and was very much about the creative process, but it seemed like a wonderful opportunity that I could not pass up. So my last year of undergrad, I was a reader grader. And then as soon as I graduated, I was approached again, asking if I would consider applying for the MA program in art history at UTSA. And I was still thinking I was on the MFA track. But again, there were some scholarships that were presented, and it just seemed like an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. So it was around this point that I learned that you may have a plan, and I knew for sure that I wanted to be in the arts, but keeping an eye open for any potential opportunities that may arise, to have that flexibility to pivot and explore new opportunities was really, critical to leading me to where I am today. So while I was in the master's program, you'll see a photo here. I did become pregnant while I was in the grad program, and it was very challenging. I have to admit, I considered perhaps putting it on hold so that I could, deal with my current situation of being pregnant and bringing a new life into the world. But this is where I'm especially grateful for the relationships that I was able to establish within the department, the art department. And seeking mentors during this time, because they were really critical to my success in completing the program. So my focus in art history is in 20th century art of Mexico, contemporary arts, with a focus on muralism. And I ended up writing my thesis on Untitled Cultural Arts, which is a nonprofit arts organization on the West Side. It's been around since the 90s, and they're still very active today, creating beautiful murals for our city. And so during that time in the grad program, I was able to get some other valuable professional experience in that I was a teaching assistant, and after graduating was a part of adjunct faculty, so teaching undergraduate art history courses, everything from intro to visual art to survey of contemporary art. And it was very fulfilling, but I think we know sometimes it's a little precarious being adjunct faculty, and so was still trying to seek out other ways that I could progress in the field. So that's where the STEM Foundation internship in museum studies came in, and I was encouraged to apply. And again, I wasn't aware of this until, you know, some of my mentors from UTSA told me about it. They're like, hey, I think this could be a good fit. So I am grateful for that. And it was a paid internship, which was even better because at this point I had a mouth to feed. And it was a 1-year opportunity. I got to work with in the curatorial department directly with the head of curatorial affairs. And so my responsibilities included like research, planning, organizing and development of exhibitions, you know, drafting didactic materials, everything that you'd see in a museum. I had some sort of, you know, role in it, and that was really exciting. The highest point of that was the exhibition in 2019, Trans-American Gender Identity Appearance Today, which did win an award. It's the Curatorial Excellence Award for Exhibitions from the Association of Art Museum Curators. So, and that was in 2020. It was really a remarkable experience. And so after that internship, I just did not want to leave the museum, and having written the grants that supported Trans-American, there was also a grant writer position that became available around the same time at the end. So things just kind of fell into place at the end of my internship. And I said, I think I can do that, having only written maybe 2 grants in my lifetime. But thankfully, you know, it was a leap of faith, but they took that risk, and I moved on to become the grants and sponsorships officer. So I was in that role for about a year and was able to secure about $4 million in that period of time for the museum. So, you know, it worked out. And during that time, actually after the end of my internship, when I was still trying to see what my next step would be, I had applied for the public art project manager position. So that must have been in 2018. And I didn't get it. So to be completely forthcoming, the position opened again, and I decided to give it a shot. And at this point, I had a little bit more experience with the grant writing under my belt. And second time was the charm. So since September 2019, I've been with the City of San Antonio Department of Arts and Culture as a public art project manager. And during this time too, I still remain active in the community, in the arts community, still have a studio practice and create memes. You can see one made from, inspired by artworks we find in the museum. There's a Hey Girl meme on the screen. Hey girl, do you have an audio tour? Because I want to hear all about you. And I also contribute to various catalogs that are, you know, self-published by artists, or, you know, in other formats, writing essays. So I like to stay very active in that sense as well. And so looking at my role with the city here, some completed projects. So I was hired, yes, in the fall of 2019. And of course, not even 6 months after that, we're thrown into a pandemic, and work from home, you know, is set for everybody. So it was very interesting to learn how to do our jobs, not, you know, being in the office. It's very much a hands-on job, and you need to be traveling around the city, interacting with different people. A critical part of our job is community engagement. So having to figure out how do we connect with the community and ask for their input, you know, because that's really what drives a lot of our projects. And also at the same time, there was just a real need for art, where our cultural institutions, you know, art museums, a lot of them were shut down. So we never slowed down during the pandemic, and we're committed to delivering these projects and on time. That's something that I think we're all really proud of here. So one of the projects that I completed, and it was actually my very first project with the city, is the Door of Equality, which is on the bottom left-hand corner. By artist Sebastian that Kimberly mentioned. We did that temporary exhibition, citywide exhibition featuring, 50 plus works of his. So this was actually the result of that exhibition. He donated these sculptures to the city, and I guess he kind of had his eye on the location too, where he felt it, be appropriate. So he was like, this is the Door of Equality. It's about open doors. It's about equity. It's about equality. And, felt like this roundabout, this circle, this space that we travel round and round was the best place to present it. So that was my first project with the city. And then the Star of Texas is another artwork by Sebastian. It is located at the San Antonio International Airport. And so, through these projects, we've really established a great relationship with the artist, and resulting in, multiple purchases of his artwork. So there are more located at the airport as well, in that corridor that connects the garage and entering the actual airport. So another program that I am working on is the Bloom program. So that is this series of oversized Alice in Wonderland-like flowers that we are planting in various locations. So mainly at trails and trailheads, kind of creating this visual identity for our trail system here in San Antonio, which is I believe over 60 miles, and the goal is to connect them through trails, or the creekways with trails alongside. So creating these visual markers that create a sense of place as well. They're very whimsical too. So they transform the space. And I think that's part of the goal of public art. So the artist that designed these flowers was Leticia Huerta, and the flowers were selected through community engagement. So we created surveys, we held virtual meetings, because this all had to happen during COVID, to ask the community what kind of flowers did they want to see. So all of the flowers that were selected by the community, by people who took the surveys, and they all reference native flora to the region. So symbolic in that sense as well. And then other projects that are in progress. We have more Bloom coming along the way. And right now I'm working with San Antonio artist Joan Fabian. She's creating a series of paintings that will be presented in at City Tower, which is the former Frost Bank downtown on Houston Street. So she has about 12 6-by-4 foot panels. So that's going to be a large one, and it will be in a more publicly accessible space, I think in one of the larger lobbies of that tower. And upcoming projects include the Zonona Black Multi-Generational Cultural Community Center. We're working with San Antonio artist Ronnie Stevens. This will be a new facility located on the east side of San Antonio. And then there's also the San Pedro Creek Corridor program, which really focuses on a series of public art projects that will be kind of creating a trail along Commerce Street. So going from downtown to the west side to the Commerce Street Bridge, and connecting those spaces from the center city and traveling outward or traveling inward. So, and there's so many more that are coming along the way, including a police station at St. Mary's Street. So aside from the projects that we're working on, there's other tasks that have to be, managed. And so I am the liaison to the Public Art Committee. The Public Art Committee is comprised of mayoral or city council appointed individuals that are, they volunteer as well, those that have been appointed, so their time is voluntary, and we appreciate their support. They're really our governing body, and they give us our green lights, our approvals to move forward at various steps of the public art project process. So we also have to seek approvals in that sense too before a project can be completed. And then for any cultural or arts programming at our airports, I am the liaison for that as well. So we've just, yeah, we do a lot of other things too. So at this point, I'll go ahead and kick it off to Jordyn Patrias, my colleague.
Thank you, Bianca. Hello, everyone. My name is Jordyn Patrias, and I'm originally from Laramie, Wyoming. And I got my bachelor's from the University of Wyoming with art history with a minor in museum studies. So at the beginning of my educational career in undergrad, I was very interested in Northern Renaissance art history, and I applied for a study abroad fellowship to go to the Netherlands, and I was fortunate enough to get that, and I was able to spend a semester studying in Utrecht, Netherlands. There, I got to experience many different art museums, and one that was of particular interest to me was in Rotterdam, and it was there that I kind of decided to change my trajectory of my studies. I really found modern art to be very interesting, especially between the world wars. And so I came back to the University of Wyoming very interested in studying that. While I studied abroad, I thought that I was not going to be able to graduate on time. And then I ended up being able to graduate on time. And so I ended up having a year between undergrad and grad school, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And I saw an internship open up that was with the Wyoming Art Party. And so previously I had held a position at the University of Wyoming Art Museum as an assistant registrar. And I really had thought that I wanted to work in a museum. I had an internship at a historic home museum with their collections. And I did that just because I thought it would be very interesting, but still thinking that I wanted to work in this museum scene. Well, I decided to take the internship with the art party that was focused on public art, and it was very eye-opening to me. And I really thought that this was something that I wanted to do. I liked the idea that art could be brought out into a public space, that it could be made really accessible to everyone, and that it could showcase local art and really emphasize what made a town or a city unique. So when I began applying to grad schools, one thing that I kept in mind was cities that had a large public art scene. So I was very excited to get accepted at UTSA, and I immediately asked one of the professors if there was a way that I could get involved with public art in San Antonio. And so they gave me a name, and I reached out, and I was able to get an internship with the public art division. It ended up being that there was a position open to be an independent contractor, so I was able to expand my role a little bit, and I was very excited about that. And then shortly after Kimberly started, there was another vacancy for a public art project manager, and I knew that I wanted to do that. I've really loved San Antonio, and I love the public art scene here, so I applied, and I was very fortunate to get that position. I also want to go back and say, when I came to UTSA, I was really kind of wanting to study contemporary art and study public art at the same time. And so I was able to take a public art course at UTSA while doing my internship, which was really great. And I was able to be a reader grader similar to Bianca and teach a modern art class. And I also worked very closely with Dr. Scherer on my thesis, which I decided to write on a contemporary artist and focus on that rather than doing public art. And so I think that being able to take contemporary classes and teach that and a public art class and intern with that, I was really able to do both of what I wanted. And I think that was really great. Next slide, please. So the first project that I completed was at Comanche Lookout Park, and that was by local artists Carlos Cortez and Doroteo Garza. And that is an installation at the top of Comanche Lookout Park, but there is a component piece that's located at the Riverwalk. And I've been working on the Riverwalk with Kimberly, and something that is really unique about this project is there are permanent and temporary rotating pieces that are at this location, including the piece from Comanche Lookout. And so there's signage there that explains that this is a component piece and where the installation is at the park. And my favorite aspect of my job is that public art can showcase a unique part of San Antonio that people might be familiar with, and then they can go up and see art that is new to them, or it could show them something new to them in their city that they never experienced before. And so having this piece at the Riverwalk that is catered for locals and tourists alike to go out and explore different areas of the city, I think is very cool, and it really helps showcase how unique San Antonio is. So we also finished phase 1 of the Riverwalk, and you can see an example of that on the lower corner. Right now we have some exhibits from that Sebastian piece, and then some of the pieces that Kimberly talked about as well. We're both working on phase 2 of that, and then I'm managing a component of that called Labor Plaza, and that is inspired by the AFL-CIO and labor rights and activism that happened here in San Antonio. I'm also working on a sculpture that will be at Martin Luther King Park, and we're really hoping that that will become a signifier for the MLK March, which is the largest in the nation. A mural at Historic La Vita and at the Ramirez Community Center. And then I'm working on 2 sculptures along Enrique Barrera Parkway and at City Tower, and then another mural at the Greater Love Multi-Generational Cultural Center. So as you've seen from all of our presentations, we're very busy. We've already completed a lot of projects, and we have a lot more coming up. And we all think that that's very exciting. It keeps things interesting, and we can always look to the future and get excited to see all these great things that are gonna come happen in San Antonio. I'm also managing a pilot program for design enhancements and the pre-qualified list. So if we have any artists out here listening, please go to sanantonio.gov/arts or Get Creative SA on our social media. We have an upcoming pre-qualified list coming out this fall, and there you can apply to be a public artist or support services provider on a list that we take for approval, and then you can be considered for projects. And we really love working with local artists and support service providers, and we really just enjoy being able to showcase all of the talent that San Antonio has to offer. So any artists or support service providers listening out, please do take advantage of that, and we hope to see your applications. And now we're gonna move into some tips for working in the arts for you all.
So I'm like, I'll try to keep it a little brief here, but I guess one thing that was really significant for me, I think that really helped shape where I am today was in finding a mentor and establishing a strong relationship with a leader in your program, right? I am grateful to Dr. Shearer. He served on my thesis committee, and I know I can still reach out to him to this day for any kind of input, and just really, mentors have been there and done that, or maybe have a network, or and know things that we obviously don't know. What you don't know, and so mentors are there to help provide that guidance. So establish good relationships with your professors, or anybody that is around you, and develop that network too. And then of course become part of the art community. So it's like you kind of just got to dive right in and attend events. I know it's really challenging right now to do that, but let's see. I'm like, how else can we become part of the art community? There's lots of like monthly shows. There's like First Thursday, First Friday at Blue Star. There's Second Saturday in the Lone Star Arts District. So just like go take a walk. These are wonderful art walks. Several galleries are open. Go like collect different artist business cards, and or like follow each other on social media. Just really insert yourself and make a space for yourself, I think is the best way to do it. If there's one thing that I learned, it's that don't be afraid to ask. Oh, that's on there. Ask for what you want. But I guess like really, it may be a little awkward. It may be a little uncomfortable, but gotta step outside our comfort zone here and attend these events and make these connections. And I mean, even with colleagues or, you know, your peers in classes, you just never know, you know, how y'all may reconnect down the road. So become a part of the art community. Go see art.
So as you may have gathered from me talking earlier, I took a lot of internships. So my advice to you is to take the internship or all of them if more than one arise. But I think that that's a very common thread that we all had throughout our presentations. All of us had an internship and it all ended up providing us into a career of some form. So you never know what might happen. Your internship that you might have just taken for credit, you know, it could end up being a career for you. It could also be a paid opportunity. And you never know the skills that you learn in that internship. It could possibly help you further your studies. It could help you with your comprehensive exam if you have to take one, or it could help you provide background and information that could help you with your thesis. I think that it's really important to do that, and it can further you in so many ways. And then to add to that, you never know how your interactions could help you find a job or create connections. So it's very important, especially in the art world in San Antonio, but I mean, this can be said for all careers and anywhere that you are, to just maintain a sense of professionalism and kindness, because you never know how you might interact with these people again. And doing that could really create a positive impact and make you memorable and make another person want to work with you again.
And then lastly, ask for what you want and be your best advocate. So these kind of go hand in hand. But I think, you know, a common thread with all of our careers and education is that, you know, we, you know, saw an opportunity and went for it. And so I think, you know, nothing happens, it's just going to happen to you in your career, in your graduate school studies. You have to be proactive and make it clear that these are your goals, so that your, you know, mentor or colleagues can help you achieve them. And, you know, be clear about what you want and what you expect. Also, be your best advocate. You know, I think all of us I find like a presentation like this a little uncomfortable because we maybe don't like the spotlight on ourselves, but I think you have to also, you know, in these kind of interactions, be proactive and say, you know, kind of toot your own horn, because that's how you get jobs. That's also how you kind of believe in yourself and, you know, say, well, I don't know if I'm qualified for this, but I'm going to go for it, and know that, yes, you are qualified for that job or that internship. You know, don't turn yourself away before you even apply, kind of thing. So that's kind of our tips for working in the art. And I think that's the end of our presentation. I think maybe we were going to have some questions. I don't know, Scott, if you're taking back over from here.
I don't know if I'm taking over. Thank you all for presenting. It's always a pleasure to talk with you all. I wanted to add one tip to folks who are listening.